She's an amateur in stature, but in practice, she was very professional. She showed up early, which is something I appreciate, because I like people to be on time. She was dressed to the motherfucking nines. I mean, I'm transphobic, and even I was like, you look nice. Went up on the stage with all the swag of a professional comedian, grabbed that mic and walked right down the middle and looked at the crowd like a gangster. Man, you should have seen her work. This bitch bombed for 45 minutes straight. And I am not exaggerating, young man. That show was terrible. Stunk. Stunk. And then she brings me on, and you know, I was like a glass of water after a handful of salt. The crowd was happy to see me. I was killing it. But here's what impressed me. Any other comedian I've ever seen, if they had bombed as bad as she did, would have snuck out of the back of the theater and went home and cried or something. And she didn't do that. Not only did she not leave, she found a seat right up in front. You know, when a new comedian watches an experienced comedian in comedy, we call this taking class. And this bitch took my whole class. She sat up there and was laughing as hard as she always laughs, as if nothing bad had even happened to her. And I saw her show. Something bad happened to her. She was drunk. So she starts talking to me while I'm on stage. But the way a person would talk to a television when they were alone. She was talking to me like that. That didn't bother me because I knew her. But the crowd didn't like that shit at all because she sucked. And a guy in the back of the room stood up, and Daphne's hair was dyed blonde at the time, and the guy screamed out, and his energy felt wild as fuck. He said, "Hey, Daphne!" And everybody kind of clamped, like got tense. We didn't know if it was a heckler or active shooter. And he said, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" Yeah, it was fucked up. The whole crowd kind of groaned because it was so, like, mean. Everybody groaned, except for Daphne. She kind of laughed, which was weird. And she didn't even look all the way back. She said, "Sir, I don't have carpets. I have hardwood floors." Just like that. Just like that. And boy, when she said that shit, it blew the roof off the place. Cut through all the tension. With that one joke, she made up for 45 minutes of a stinker of a show. And after that, she could do no wrong. And I kept on rocking. She kept on talking to me. And then the show became something cooler than a show. It became like a conversation between a black man and a white trans woman, and we started getting to the bomber shit. All them questions that you think about that you'd be afraid to ask, I was just asking them, and she was answering them, and her answers were funny as shit. The crowd was falling out of their chairs. And at the end of the show, I go, "Oh, Daphne," I said, "Well, that was fun." I go, "I love you to death, but I have no fucking idea what you're talking about." The whole crowd laughed, except for Daphne. Now she looks at me like I'm not her friend anymore. Like I'm something bigger than me, like I'm the whole world and a guy. And she said, "I don't need you to understand me." I said, "What?" She said, "I just need you to believe," just like this, she goes, "that I'm having a human experience." And when she said it, the whole crowd kind of gasped. And I gave her the Fight Club look. I said, "I believe you, bitch." Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, "Just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it." And oh, I believe you because it takes one to know one. Then I told the crowd good night, and they start going crazy. And before the applause gets to its crescendo, I say, "And don't forget my opening act, Daphne." And the crowd stood up. And I looked at her, and tears came out of her eyes. She couldn't believe it was happening. I couldn't believe it was happening because her show stunk. And it was a great night. I remember the late, great Paul Mooney was there. A bunch of fly-ass comedy niggas was there. And we all went backstage and was just drinking and talking shit and laughing, and Daphne stole the room. She had everyone cracking up, spinning the yarn, telling us all these crazy stories about shit she be into. We all laughing real hard, and then she's telling us and everyone's laughing. I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, she is funny. I pulled her aside and I said, you're hilarious. I didn't know that when you were on stage. I said, you're doing some things wrong, but I can help you. I said, anytime I'm in San Francisco, why don't you open the show for me and I'll just try to give you some pointers, see if you can't work this thing out. And she said, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And she grabbed me real tight, hugged me, squeezed me. And I pushed her off violently because I'm transphobic. I said, boundaries, bitch. When Sticks and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me, and apparently they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a fuck, because Twitter's not a real place. And the hardest thing for a person to do is go against their tribe if they disagree with their tribe. But Daphne did that for me. She wrote a tweet that was very beautiful, and what she said was, it was almost exactly what she said. She said, punching down on someone requires you to think less of them. And I know him, and he doesn't. He doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down, he punches lines, and he's a master at his craft. That's what she said. Beautiful tweet. Beautiful friend. It took a lot of heart to defend me like that. And when she did that, the trans community dragged that bitch all over Twitter. For days, they was going in on her, and she was holding her own because she's funny. But 6 days after that wonderful night I described to you, my friend Daphne killed herself. Oh, yeah. It's a true story. My heart was broken. Yeah, it wasn't the jokes. I don't know if it was them dragging her. I don't know what's going on in her life, but I bet dragging her didn't help. I was very angry at them. I was very angry at her. I felt like Daphne lied to me. She always says she identified as a woman, and then one day she goes up to the roof of a building and jumps off and kills herself. Clearly, only a man would do some gangster shit like that. Hear me out. As hard as it is to hear a joke like that, I'm telling you right now, Daphne would have loved that joke. That's why she was my friend. Well, I have some very bad news for the people in the front rows. I heard that some of you paid as much as $800 for your tickets. Sadly, I did this same show a couple weeks ago in Atlanta for $60 a head. Can you imagine? Nigga, you could have flown to Atlanta, got a hotel, had some dinner, and came back, and you still have a little money left over, niggas. Paid way too much just to see me in this gay-ass neighborhood. All right, let me roll up my sleeves and tell these pussy jokes. Will told me to say there hasn't been this many pussy references in this room since Cats was here. Boy, I gotta tell you, man, I've been doing this set all week, and boy, I've been telling these jokes, and sometimes niggas look like they're in actual pain over the jokes. None of it's that bad to me, but I understand why it could hurt some people's feelings. So tonight, I'm gonna give you an opportunity that I rarely give anybody. I'm gonna let you say whatever it is you need to say to my face, or ask me whatever it is you wanna know. But there are no dumb questions allowed. If you ask a stupid question, you'll be asked to leave. Nah, I'm just kidding, go ahead. Everyone relax, come on. Oh yes, sir, in the front.
2 questions, how often do you write, and can I have a cigarette?
All right, first, you may have a cigarette, but remember, this is not jail, motherfucker. This lady right here.
I have a question. Do you remember this scene?
Oh, I do remember that. Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. That's a terrible question. This gentleman in the front with the salmon-colored shirt on.
I was wondering if you had any advice for young comedians that you generally give, and...
Are you thinking of doing comedy?
I've never done it before, but watching you has made me want to try it.
I don't know if that's an insult or not.
It's a compliment. It's.
I mean, niggas don't say I've never done brain surgery, but it looked a lot easier than I thought. I'm teasing. All right, here'd be my advice. Okay, I don't know how comedians start nowadays, right? But what I would suggest is just start. And once you start, you can't really stop, no matter what happens, no matter how bad it gets, no matter what people say. You know what I mean? Because comedy is weird like that. You know why I hate watching other comedians do comedy? Not because I hate other comedians, but because I love comedy so much. It's like watching somebody else fuck your girl. And I say, fuck her better than that. Yes, you on the aisle up there, the lady with the long... Yes, you, standing up. I see you. My favorite book of all time, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. That guy with the baseball hat.
Marry, fuck, kill, Michelle, Rihanna, Oprah.
Wait, who's Michelle? Oh, Obama. Well, sir, you're putting me in quite a pickle. I can't say I'll fuck Michelle Obama. That's insane. Well, I guess I mean, because I wouldn't kill any of those women. But I'd fuck all three of them. The gentleman in the blue Oxford standing up.
Tell us the story with Charlie Murphy.
Tell a story about Charlie Murphy?
Or your favorite.
Boy, there's so many good Charlie Murphys. You know, the thing with Charlie Murphy is he used to just make us laugh all the time. And I used to ask him about all the old Hollywood shit I was curious about. Like when they used to accuse Michael Jackson, I remember asking once, I go, Charlie, do you think Michael Jackson actually did those things? And he said, let me ask you a question, Dave. He said, say it is illegal to fuck women. How long are you staying out of jail? So God bless Charlie Murphy wherever you are. Charlie, I love you.
Who do you think is going to win the 2020 election?
All right, I'm going to put a pin in this, but I'll tell you right now, fella, I don't know, but I think Trump has a better shot than a lot of people would like to think. I'm just saying, it all depends on how the left talks. The way we're talking is not going to win the fucking ball game. Donald Trump's over there on the right, grabbing handfuls of pussy. Joe Biden can't even smell hair over here. Fuck this side. All right, man, go ahead.
Thank you so much for this show. And
how old are you?
25.
25? Yeah. Boy, don't let R. Kelly see you. He's gonna pee on you by accident. Oh, my bad. I thought she was 15. Yuck. I'm totally joking. I'm sorry.
My question is there anything you've learned from another comedian that you feel like will stay with you for life?
I tell you what, miss, that's a good question. Yes, is the short answer. A longer version of it is this. I was raised by comedians. I started doing stand-up when I was 14. The other day, I went to a comedian's funeral, and I realized as we was putting this motherfucker in the ground that these people are at least as influential to me as my family. I rock with these niggas till the wheel falls off. We fight and we fuss and we are jealous of each other and we get mad at each other, but my life wouldn't have been what it was without each and every one of them, and I consider them my family. That's Liz. Still hadn't figured out exactly how to say what I wanted to say, but I was doing pretty good. And I was doing some Me Too jokes, and a woman stood up from the audience and she was crying. Clearly, it was a white woman. She says to me, you can't say that. It's 200 seat room, it's a very small room. I'm like, what the fuck are you, like, miss, are you okay? What are you doing? She says, you can't say that. I said, yes, I can, it's my show. I'll say whatever the fuck I want. The crowd's like, ooh, like this. And then she gets up from the table and she starts making a big like show, just pushing through the aisles and all this stuff. And there's like a curtain right before the front door. And she gets to the curtain and she's crying. It's fucking crazy. She says, I'm sorry I was raped. It's a fucking comedy club. It's like loud farting getting out of an elevator. Nothing funny can happen in here. Now I'm trapped in a room with this woman's fucking stink. And I say, miss, it is not your fault that you were raped, but it's not mine either. Ta-ta, bitch, like this. She storms out. Now the room is very uncomfortable, but I managed to get the crowd back, but I'm like, a little traumatized. Same show, there's a trans woman sitting in the audience. This is a true story. This was like a few weeks ago. I did 6 shows that weekend. This trans woman came to 4 of them. Calls herself Daphne. Man, this chick Daphne was in there cracking the fuck up at everything I said about everybody. It was amazing. She was laughing, and it was fun to watch her laugh. You could tell she was letting go with something that was heavy, and she'd throw her head back, and she'd smile with all her teeth. She was having a great time. And the more fun she had, I felt bad, because I knew I had some trans jokes to unload. And I thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't say these jokes, because I don't want to, like, fuck her evening up. She's having so much fun. But then I thought to myself, well, if I can't say it in front of her, should I say this shit at all? So I let her rip. To my surprise, Daphne laughed harder at the trans jokes than anybody in the room. In fact, everybody in the room would look at her to make sure it was okay. And I got off stage, I was in the dressing room, I was like, man, this is a fucking weird show. I'm sitting in the dressing room by myself just trying to figure out, like, what the fuck just happened out there? Like, why is it that this one woman can't take any of these jokes and Daphne can take all of these jokes? So weird. And then I realized, Daphne used to be a man. So now I go out of the dressing room and like you can see like all the staff was there like cleaning the club up, the audience had gone, and sitting at the bar by herself was Daphne. And she's like, hey, Dave, come join me for a drink. And I don't want her to think that I'm transphobic or nothing, so I'm like, fuck, I guess I could have at least a drink. And we get some tequila and we're sitting there. And she was fucking cool. Turns out that Daphne, she wants to be a comedian. She was asking me for advice, and I told her advice and all this shit. And then she says to me, she says, boy, you sure do get a bad rap for your trans jokes. I said, Daphne, thank you, but you don't have to say that. I hope I didn't offend you. She goes, no. She said, in fact, I read about you in the New York Times. I said, you did? She said, yeah. She said, I thought it was interesting that they blamed you for R. Kelly. They said you normalized him for telling jokes about him. I go, yeah, they said that. She goes, I wonder why they never said that you normalized transgenders by telling jokes about us. And I'd never thought about that. It never occurred to me. And we started making out. And then, like, I reached up just to see what it felt like. I was like, what? And it felt like pussy, didn't it? I was just like, go ahead, ask me a question.
What the fuck you gonna do if Trump get reelected?
What am I gonna do if Trump get reelected? Probably get a significant tax break. Hey, You wanna know why I don't even talk about Trump in my show? Because that motherfucker is not the hokey pokey. He is not what it's all about. There's millions of people that put him in power, and the ideas that he puts forth are not his own. He's singing poor white people's greatest hits. So why the fuck would I worry about him and not the other millions? Really, you know who I'm gonna vote for next time if things keep going the way it's going is that gay dude. No, Mike Pence. It's a safe place where I could tell some jokes. And I find out that this comedian I know, Chris Tucker, who's in all those Rush Hour movies, I find out that Chris is in San Francisco too, at some charity event. So I call him, I'm like, yo, I just saw you at some charity event. I said, I'm doing a show at the Punchline, why don't you come by the club after your event? He's like, cool, Dave, I thought you was dead, nigga, I'll come by. He says, is it okay if I bring some friends? Because, you know, I'm with a lot of people. I go, man, you Chris Tucker. You can bring whoever the fuck you want. And then I show up to the club late that night. I walk into the dressing room, and sitting in the dressing room is Gavin Newsom, who at the time was the mayor of San Francisco, but now he's the governor of California. And sitting next to him was Kamala Harris, who at the time was the DA of San Francisco. Now she's the senator from California that's front running on the Democratic ticket. And sitting next to her was Al Gore. It's fucking weird. And sitting next to Al Gore was the guys from Google, Sergey, and I don't know how to say these. All right. And it was Chris Tucker and Ben Jealous, who at the time was the president of the NAACP, who was all just at this big charity dinner, and Paul Mooney was drinking scotch. And we all was just in there. And, you know, at first I was a little uncomfortable when we started talking, and we all got along really well. At some point, Kamala Harris says to me, she goes, you know, a friend of mine is announcing his candidacy for president tomorrow. I went to college with him. I'm like, what? I go, Barack Obama? She goes, you've heard of him? I'm like, yo, I just read about this dude. And she goes, yo, yeah, blah, 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 we talking. She goes, you know what? She says, let's call him on the phone. I said, what the fuck? And she picks the phone up and she dials and she's listening like this. And she goes, this is voicemail. And she gives me the phone, she goes, leave him a message. You know, I didn't know what to say. I just said what you say to any black dude that's running for president. You know, stay low, running a zigzag pattern, this kind of shit. And then the last thing I say is, you know what? I said, sir, I really do believe you can do this. Like, man, I'm wishing you luck. Now, next day I wake up and go for coffee at a place called the Embarcadero. It's like an eatery by the sea in San Francisco. And I'm walking to the coffee shop and there's a police line and I can't cross the tape. But then I figure, fuck it, I'm Dave Chappelle, so I go into the thing like this. And the police yoke me. These motherfuckers like tackle me immediately. And I see over the police's shoulder Gavin Newsom. I couldn't remember his name, but I remember the night before I had kept teasing him and saying he looked like Christian Bale, the guy from the Batman movies. So I see him and I can't remember the name, so I'm just like, Batman, help! And he stops, he's like, Dave? And then the police see that the mayor knows me, so they all like, oh, sorry about that. And he's like, hey, back up, everybody. And he just picks me up. He's like, I'm really sorry about that. I'm like, I'm fine, don't worry about it. And he's like, listen, I'm here with Prince. Would you like to meet him? I'm like, I know Prince. That's my nigga. And we go around the corner, and it was Prince Charles, the Prince of England. I didn't know the protocol of meeting royalty. You're not supposed to touch him. I dapped him up like a nigga. My nigga. Ah! Just hugging him and shit like this, dapping him up, like this. And that nigga was cool too. I was like, that's really fucking weird. And then I was just out there in the upside down, not having no TV show, trying to figure life out. And the election was going on in the background. And this guy, Barack Obama, was picking up steam. This motherfucker was killing it. And I had a chance to go to the last debate on the Democratic ticket. And I went. It's me and Chris Tucker sitting in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's the last three candidates. It was Barack Obama, John Edwards, and Hillary Clinton. Now, Obama's a lot taller than Edwards and Clinton, and he had the center podium. And at one point, they're all on stage, and they start fussing, and Obama goes, look, none of us are perfect, like this. And his hands was like this, and there was light shining behind his head, and the other two candidates was looking up at the nigga, and I was sitting in the audience like, this nigga looks like Jesus. And I realized in that moment that I was looking at the next president of the United States. I was certain of it. I couldn't explain it, but I knew what I was seeing. And I got really excited. And I'm not that kind of guy. I said, I gotta meet this motherfucker. So I stayed. They were all on stage doing interviews, and I just waited. I was waiting and waiting. And then John Edwards was done with his interviews first, because everybody knew he wasn't gonna win. And I see John Edwards, and I said, hey, Senator Edwards, I just want to say hi. And that motherfucker looked at me like, I'm like, fuck you, nigga, you gonna lose anyway. And then he left, and then Hillary Clinton just walked by me in one of them Steve Harvey suits. But Obama was taking forever. Everybody wanted to talk to him. When I knew the media saw exactly what I saw, there was no question about it. That was the guy. I waited and I waited, and finally, it must have been over an hour and a half, he finishes his last interview. He's like, man, thank you very much. Good talking to you. And he turns around, and we make eye contact. He sees me, and when he sees me, he looks over, he goes, Dave Chappelle. And Obama did me the same way I did Prince Charles. He dapped me up, and he like bro hugged me, and he pulled me in, and I'll never forget this. He said in my ear, I got your message. Thank you very much, New York City. And you know what I said? That's all I said. First of all, I'll tell you right now what I said, and I will tell you that this was not a joke. It's a true story, and I just happened to tell it. All right, what happened was I went to a gallery party, all right? I don't know who in here has ever been rich before, but these are very nice parties. You know, wine and cheese and ball of conversation. And there was a few eccentric types, one of which was a very wealthy man that happened to be wearing a dress. I don't know what you call him, man. This is a tranny or a drag queen, perhaps. Whatever it was definitely a man. And this man was definitely on drugs. I don't know what kind of drugs he's on, but I knew he had too much. He didn't look good. It's like this, he's like, he looked sick. And all his friends were standing around him, concerned, trying to revive him. I don't know whether it looked like some kind of gay CPR. There was fanning and shit. I saw all this from a distance. Now, I should have minded my own business, but I got curious. I was like, oh. And I went over there. All I said, excuse me, gentlemen, is he okay? And then they looked at me like I was evil. She is fine. I said, word? Oh. I'm sorry, I didn't know this is what we were doing. Here's my thing. I would support anybody's right to be whoever they feel like they are inside. I'm your ally in that. However, my question is, to what degree do I have to participate in your self-image? Is it fair that I have to change my whole pronoun game up for this motherfucker? That doesn't make sense. Seriously. If I put on an Argyle sweater and I'm like, hey everybody, I feel like a white guy in this sweater and I want some goddamn respect and a bank loan. That's not gonna work. Give a fuck how I feel. Why should I give a fuck how you feel? Nigger is a pronoun. But there was no time for philosophical debate. This was an emergency situation. I said, fine. Sorry, guys. I was just worried because she looks terrible. She just fell off the bench. Appears that her dick is popping out of her dress. You mind if I call an ambulance, champ? I'd rather not be at a party where a tranny ODs. There's too many questions to answer. Okay, I've been through this before. I had a friend from high school. Now, in high school, this guy was a thug, right? He was a fucking dope boy. He did it all. He's a wild dude. People used to be very scared of him. And then after high school, word on the street was he'd come out the closet. I personally didn't believe it. I bring him up because last year, he calls me out of the blue like, yo, what's up, man? I got your number from so-and-so, and I heard you're going to be in New York doing a show. Could I get some tickets? I was like, fuck yeah, get some tickets, man. How you been? He said, well, we'll catch up at the show, man, but yo, I appreciate it. I'll see you soon. I said, all right, man, take care. And I was about to hang up, and I couldn't resist. I was just like, hey, nigga, I heard you was gay. What's going on with that? And I wish I didn't ask, because he sounded like he was dying to talk about that shit. And he had a long story about it. And it's not that I didn't care, but I was, I don't like talking on the phone. I was watching TV at the same time. So I just wasn't really paying attention like I should. But I was trying to sound supportive, but I didn't really know what to say. So I was just like mumbling shit throughout this conversation. I was just be like, nigga, you gay, man. You just gay. Like, This went on for a while, and then finally I had to say something like definitive to get him off the phone. And I was like, hey, man, you know what? Don't let people get you down, all right? And the next time someone tries to make you feel bad about yourself, just remember, everybody fucks funny to somebody. He didn't like that shit. He's like, what the fuck does that mean? I said, huh? He said, you saying I fuck funny, motherfucker? I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying everybody's different. He said, you ain't say different, nigga. You said funny. What's so fucking funny about the way I fuck? And I said, hey, man, I fuck feet. He said, what? Oh, this is not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. I get women to squeeze their feet together like this, and I fuck them right in that little space in their feet. But you can't build a community behind that shit. There's no flag for us. That shit made him laugh. And the next day, after the show, I saw him backstage. He was like, yo, what's up, man? I'm like, oh, shit, what's going on? And he had his buddy with him. He goes, Dave, I want you to meet Manuel. Manuel's my fiance. We're in New York getting married because it's legal here. I said, well, congratulations, fellas. And Manuel was like, gracias. And he went to go get some drinks. And then my buddy looked at me, he was like, so Dave, what do you think? And I started mumbling again. You gay, nigga, you just gay. He said, yeah, I'm a little nervous about getting married, man. It's a big step. I said, yeah, it is. It's a big step. He said, well, you've been married for a while. You got any advice for us? No, I'm married to a woman. Sorry about that. And they corrected me. He said, no, you married the person that you love. So it's essentially the same. I said, man, the problem with that statement is that it makes the assumption that I love her. But you guys lighten the fuck up. Of course I love my wife. She laughs at this shit. As a matter of fact, she eats and spends this shit. You know what I told him? I told him, I said, you know what you should do, man? First of all, you shouldn't do it. I'm talking about being legally married. It's not that you're gay as much as just legal marriage is a fucking diabolical leverage game in the United States. I'm just being honest. Devoid of religious significance or the idea of love, marriage is nothing but an awful contract that you shouldn't sign. I'm just being real. Because you start out loving each other, and then like 2 years later, you're just building a case against one another for a hypothetical court date that may or may not ever happen. You throw being gay on top of that, that shit is explosive. Like I said, Ray Rice shit. Okay, right after Ray Rice went through all that shit, I was at a party and I met this kid, Michael Samms. You know Michael Samms? Very nice guy. He's the first openly gay NFL player. And Mike's a very nice guy, very brave guy. But when I met him, I couldn't help but thinking, now what's gonna happen when Michael Samms beats his wife up in the elevator? Is that domestic violence or is that just two niggas working shit out in the elevator? You know what I mean? Anyway, I give all married men the same advice, gay or straight. Get a dog. This dog will love you all the time, but she's not going to. It's real talk. I didn't even know about dogs, and my kids got the dog. They brought him home from the shelter, and I didn't even want him. They're like, "Can we keep him?" I said, "Nope." I said, "Where'd you even get this dog?" They're like, "We got him from the shelter." I was like, "Ugh." Probably something wrong with him. Can't keep him. And then my kids started crying and screaming like the dog had gambling debts. "Please, Dad, if you don't let us keep him, they're gonna kill him." I was like, "Oh. All right, you can keep him." And this dog was a menace. I hated his guts. Then one night I'd smoked a bunch of weed and I was eating a sandwich and Baba came over. Baba's the dog. He came over and was staring at me. This will make you very uncomfortable if you're just looking at you usually. I had to give him a piece of my sandwich so he'd go away. And that's how we became friends. Now, if you see me walking down the street with Baba, I ain't got no leash or nothing. He walks right next to me. If I stop, he'll stop. And if I go, he'll go. And all my friends are like, "Yo, Dave, that shit is dope. How you train Baba to do that shit?" I've never trained Baba. Just a messy eater. If I drop food and Baba's not around, all I gotta do is call him. "Baba!" He's a black dude's dog, so he doesn't come right away. He peeks first to see what's going on. I gotta tap my foot so he can see the food. "Over here, little buddy." And he's like, "Thanks, Dave." He'll come get it and run off. Man, I gotta tell you, when I was sitting here watching what all the other honorees have done with their lives, I started feeling like shit. Like, this is terrible. And then Bobo brought me up and started out good with that Ali picture, and then it just, whew. But that coloring book that was in the picture, I know the Ali's are here, that coloring book, my mother has it. And Champ, he signed it. You know, the greatest, he signed Muhammad Ali. And his sparring partner was there that day. And his sparring partner signed it, said, "The next heavyweight champion of the world, Larry Holmes." And he was. And 2-year-old Dave Chappelle colored all in that shit and just ruined the book. But I remember part of the book that I remember real vividly, because I asked my mother about it when I was a kid. There's a part where there's a picture of Ali throwing his Olympic gold medal into the Ohio River. That's why it's so weird for me being here. You know, both my parents were very brilliant. My dad went to Brown in 1955. That's right. He told me at the time he was one of 3 black students. He said one of the guys got accused of a rape that he probably didn't commit, and the other guy killed himself, and Dad said, and I left. And see, that's what makes us Chappelle's great. We know when to quit. We all just live to fight another day. I gotta say, I'm very honored to be here, and I'm very honored to be here with the other honorees. Really, I'm like very humbled by you all, the work that you do, and you all make me want to be better. All of you. And, you know, I was gonna stop doing stand-up for a while because 4 comedy specials in a year is like, that's a lot, you know. But, you know, shout out to my colleagues in comedy. I just want to say that in a way, this, for me, belongs to my mother primarily, who was an African-American studies professor. And a lot of the content that I say, she raised me well. I'm not an uninformed person. But also, you know, my colleagues in comedy, like comedians have been getting beat up pretty bad recently, and we're somehow nowadays expected to speak with the precision of attorneys or politicians. We are not. I always think of James Baldwin. You know, James Baldwin was one of my favorite writers because he managed to tell white people what they feel like to be around. So I ain't gonna hang up my gloves yet. I think I got one more special in me. So to quote Baldwin, God gave Noah the rainbow sign. It's no more water, it's the fire next time. Thank you very much.
And so, if you would, please join me in welcoming Dave Chappelle home again.
Oh, thank you. You know, I speak for a living, and I'm a little nervous today. I wanted to say thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Bishop Green, and thank everyone at Allen University for hosting me today, because it feels special, right? When I think of this great grandfather that I've heard about in my life, but never actually touched his legacy. So it's like the product of his loins coming to meet the product of his work. And it's an important day for me personally. And I know a lot of you guys are students, and I just want to tell you I'm the first person in my family to not go to college. And as the president has told you, I've done outstanding in spite of that. But one thing I did want to say, and one thing today just made me think about, for all the things that I've done, I'm most renowned for what I didn't do. I've made decisions in my career that a lot of people have called insane. 2004, had a $50 million deal on the table, and in a crisis of conscience, flipped the table over and walked away. Went to South Africa. Everyone said I was running away from the money. That is not true. In fact, I still want that money. The idea that I wanted to just share with you guys is the idea that sometimes you do what you think is best, whether anybody understands it or not. I heard a story about my father where someone told me he used to do statistics for a company in DC. The company he did statistics for started doing business with the South African government, so he quit his job. It's caused a lot of problems between him and his wife. It's hard for a man when he can't provide for his family the way he wants to, and he suffered through it. And a generation later, when I had my crisis of conscience, I was able to go to a free South Africa and get away from the heat. This idea that what you do in your lifetime informs the generations that comes after you is something I keep thinking about, something that is so much bigger than just ourselves. And today I'm standing in front of you guys, and I know you guys are like, oh, I know you're bored. But I see family of mine in the front row some who I've never met, and I just realize how all of us are connected. That my great-grandfather built something more substantial than buildings. He built a community, and he built, more importantly than a community, he built a way. You know, so I'm very grateful. Very grateful. Hello, police. I just saw him saying, you know what I mean? He's standing over like, so this is what black people talk about. I just want you guys to remember, you know, that right now there's this thing where ethics aren't what they used to be. This idea that people are trying to replace the ideas of good and bad with better or worse. And that is incorrect. You gotta keep your ethics intact because good and bad is a compass that helps you find the way. And a person that only does what's better or worse is the easiest type of person to control. They are a mouse in a maze that just finds the cheese. But the one who knows about good and bad will realize that he's in a maze. So, that being said, I just hope that all of you guys transcend whatever you see as your obstacles and that you live outstanding lives and that you stay connected to your communities because you have so much power there, and that you grow your communities and you diversify your communities, and that you don't let anybody tell you you can't or to be afraid. It's okay to be afraid because you can't be brave or courageous without fear. The idea of being courageous is that even though you're scared, you just do the right thing anyway. So in 2004, I walked away from $50 million, and in November, I made a deal for $60 million. So, although I am not the most famous comedian of my time, I would like to know what their great-grandfathers did. I'm very proud today. Thank you very much. Boy, this comes as a complete surprise. I mean, I read all the reviews and they said, whoever cares the most, I care at least as much as them. I know what I got, because I lost it all. I gotta tell you something, and I don't talk about it often. Have you ever worked all your life for something and have it not work out? That happened to me. It was tough. Think about it. I was gone for 12 years. It's not a little bit of time. It was hell. I watched other niggas that I knew become very famous. I watched the world go on without me. I mourned the loss of it. And after a while, I didn't care. Coming back was terrifying. I understand what I am. I really do, more than anybody. Like when they write about me in history, I'll be dead reading it like, yeah, I knew they'd say that. They say that a person can't dream of a face they've never seen. Can't believe that's true, but it's probably true. Boy, I got a long bank of faces. 32 years, I could close my eyes. I could think of any night. There's so many faces. Every night, most nights, they're all looking up, smiling. You have no idea what the world looks like from there. All different races, all different colors, all different kind of beliefs, just looking at me, smiling for 32 years, night after night. No comedian take that for granted. I swear to God, this might be the noblest of professions. Robin Williams had a bar that I loved. He said, comedy is the only job you can have where you can use everything you know. And that's true. You can use more than you know. You can use what you think. Use it. Don't be afraid. Don't let these bitch-ass niggas button your lip. Say it anyway. Man, you have no idea what this job is. Oh, buddy, I'm in trouble now. Before I go, I want to share this story with you because it's important to this point. I want your community to know that one of the coolest people I ever met was a transgender woman. And this is not a man that I knew that became a woman. This woman was trans when I met her. Lived in San Francisco. Daphne Dworman is her name. I would do 18 shows in the Bay Area, sometimes in Oakland and Dirty Hood nightclub, and she would be there, a white trans woman, laughing loud and hard at everything I said, especially the trans jokes. It's very puzzling because she was obviously trans. And one night after one of the shows, I met her. And what it was, turns out, it was her dream to be a comedian. And I was her hero. It's very moving. I could not dislike somebody that felt that way about me. We became fast friends. And when I made that special Sticks and Stones, right as it was coming out, I happened to be in San Francisco and I wanted to do a show, but I needed an opening act. And I remembered that trans woman I had met. So I called her on the phone. And I called her myself. I said, "Hey, Daphne, this is Dave Chappelle." She couldn't believe it. And I go, "I'm in San Francisco." And then she started saying a bunch of wild stuff. I was like, "Relax now. I don't want any pussy." I was, I was calling because I'm doing a show and I need an opening act. And I was wondering if you'd open the show. And she was like, "Fuck yeah." Now, I didn't know this at the time, but this woman had only done stand-up comedy 8 times in her life. This is little to no experience. And now she's about to open a show for what many call the GOAT. She's an amateur in stature, but in practice, she was very professional. She showed up early, which is something I appreciate because I like people to be on time. She was dressed to the motherfucking nines. I mean, I'm transphobic, and even I was like, "You look nice." Went up on the stage with all the swag of a professional comedian, grabbed that mic and walked right down the middle and looked at the crowd like a gangster. Man, you should have seen her work. This bitch bombed for 45 minutes straight. And I am not exaggerating, young man. That show was terrible. Stunk. Stunk. And then she brings me on and, you know, I was like a glass of water after a handful of salt. The crowd was happy to see me. I was killing it. But here's what impressed me. Any other comedian I've ever seen, if they had bombed as bad as she did, would have snuck out of the back of the theater and went home and cried or something. And she didn't do that. Not only did she not leave, she found a seat right up in front. You know, when a new comedian watches an experienced comedian in comedy, we call this taking class. And this bitch took my whole class. She sat up there and was laughing as hard as she always laughs, as if nothing bad had even happened to her. And I saw her show. Something bad happened to her. She was drunk. So she starts talking to me while I'm on stage, but the way a person would talk to a television when they were alone. She's talking to me like that. It didn't bother me because I knew her, but the crowd didn't like that shit at all because she sucked. And a guy in the back of the room stood up, and Daphne's hair was dyed blonde at the time, and the guy screamed out, and his energy felt wild as fuck. He said, "Hey, Daphne!" And everybody kind of clamped, like got tense. We didn't know if it was a heckler or an active shooter. And he said, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" Yeah, it was fucked up. The whole crowd kind of groaned because it was so, like, mean. Everybody groaned, except for Daphne. She kind of laughed, which was weird. And then she didn't even look all the way back. She said, "Sir, I don't have carpets. I have hardwood floors." Just like that. Just like that. And boy, when she said that shit, it blew the roof off the place. Cut through all the tension. With that one joke, she made up for 45 minutes of a stinker of a show. And after that, she could do no wrong. And I kept on rocking. She kept on talking to me. And then the show became something cooler than a show. It became like a conversation between a black man and a white trans woman, and we started getting to the bomber shit. All them questions that you think about that you'd be afraid to ask, I was just asking them, and she was answering them, and her answers were funny as shit. The crowd was falling out of their chairs. And at the end of the show, I go, oh, Daphne, I said, well, that was fun. I go, I love you to death, but I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. The whole crowd laughed, except for Daphne. Now she looks at me like I'm not her friend anymore. Like I'm something bigger than me, like I'm the whole world and the guy. And she said, I don't need you to understand me. I said, what? She said, I just need you to believe, just like this, she goes, that I'm having a human experience. And when she said it, the whole crowd kind of gasped. And I gave her the Fight Club look. I said, I believe you, bitch. Because she didn't say anything about pronouns. She didn't say anything about me being in trouble. She said, just believe I'm a person and I'm going through it. And oh, I believe you because it takes one to know one. Then I told the crowd good night, and they start going crazy. And before the applause gets to its crescendo, I say, and don't forget my opening act, Daphne. And the crowd stood up. And I looked at her, and tears came out of her eyes. She couldn't believe it was happening. I couldn't believe it was happening because her show stunk. And it was a great night. I remember the late, great Paul Mooney was there, a bunch of fly-ass comedy niggas was there. And we all went backstage and was just drinking and talking shit and laughing, and Daphne stole the room. She had everyone cracking up, spinning the yarn, telling us all these crazy stories about shit she be into. We all laughing real hard, and as she's telling us and everyone's laughing, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh my God, she is funny. I pulled her aside and I said, you're hilarious. I didn't know that when you were on stage. I said, you're doing some things wrong, but I can help you. I said, anytime I'm in San Francisco, why don't you open the show for me, and I'll just try to give you some pointers, see if you can't work this thing out. And she said, are you serious? I was like, yeah. And she grabbed me real tight, hugged me, squeezed me, and I pushed her off violently because I'm transphobic. I said, boundaries, bitch. When Sticks and Stones came out, a lot of people in the trans community were furious with me, and apparently they dragged me on Twitter. I don't give a fuck, because Twitter's not a real place. And the hardest thing for a person to do is go against their tribe if they disagree with their tribe. But Daphne did that for me. She wrote a tweet that was very beautiful, and what she said was, it was almost exactly what she said. She said, punching down on someone requires you to think less of them. And I know him, and he doesn't. He doesn't punch up, he doesn't punch down, he punches lines, and he's a master at his craft. That's what she said. Beautiful tweet. Beautiful friend. It took a lot of heart to defend me like that. And when she did that, the trans community dragged that bitch all over Twitter. For days, they was going in on her, and she was holding her own because she's funny. But 6 days after that wonderful night I described to you, my friend Daphne killed herself. Oh, yeah. It's a true story. My heart was broken. Yeah, it wasn't the jokes. I don't know if it was them dragging her. I don't know what's going on in her life, but I bet dragging her didn't help. I was very angry at them. I was very angry at her. I felt like Daphne lied to me. She always said she identified as a woman. And then one day she goes up to the roof of a building and jumps off and kills herself. Clearly, only a man would do some gangster shit like that. Hear me out. As hard as it is to hear a joke like that, I'm telling you right now, Daphne would have loved that joke. That's why she was my friend. I Googled the dictionary definition of a feminist just to make sure I was talking about the right thing. And do you know, sir, what the dictionary definition of a feminist is? I didn't either. Listen to this. Webster's defines a feminist as a human being, not a woman, a human being that believes in equal rights for women. I was shocked that that's what that meant. Because by that definition, I would consider myself a feminist. And I didn't even know that at the time. All these years, I thought it meant frumpy dyke. Well, that's who's always talking to me, some chick in overalls. Men are trying to rape us. Ah, not you, bitch. We please. I know. Look, listen. I support the feminist movement. I do, in my own ways. When you guys did the Women's March, I tried to go and support you. And none of my friends would go with me. I asked all the fellas, none of them wanted to go. I tried everything. Come on, y'all, it's gonna be bitches there. They was like, nope. So what I did is I called my friend Ange. Ange is a black woman who's a comedy writer, and she's dope. Matter of fact, she's the only woman that I know personally that pays her ex-husband alimony. And she sounds just like a man when she does it. Fuck that broke motherfucker and all that. She says all that shit. So I hit Ange up. I hit her on the text. And all I did, I texted her. I said, Ange, are you going to the Women's March? And she texted me back, and this is real text. She said, I hope those white bitches get tear gassed. There's a problem in that feminist movement, isn't there? From its inception in America, there's always been a racial component. When Susan B. Anthony was having that meeting and Sojourner Truth's black ass showed up, read your history books. All them white women asked Sojourner Truth not to speak. They didn't want to conflate the issues of women's rights and slavery. But you know how black bitches are. Sojourner Truth went up there anyway. She did a famous speech. She said, ain't I a woman? Ain't I a woman? That's right. And listen. I supported the Me Too movement, but the whole time I thought that the way they handled that was stupid. It was white. It was like, they were doing shit like going to the Golden Globes, and all of them would be like, let's all go to the Golden Globes and wear black dresses to give these men a piece of our minds. Bitch, that is not gonna work. You think Martin Luther King's gonna be like, I want everybody to keep riding the bus, but wear matching outfits? You gotta get off the bus and walk. It's real talk. Real talk, that was a silly movement. I want everybody to wear a crocheted pussy hat so they know we're serious. What the fuck was y'all doing? And then I said something about it in one of my specials, and all these women actresses came after me. I said, man, fuck y'all too, you canceled. I ain't jerking off to none of your pictures again. They were like, who is he to tell us anything? I'll tell you exactly who I am. I'm the one that got off the bus and left $50 million on the bus and walked. I agreed with these women. I just didn't agree with what they were doing about it. Right. No, it was annoying as fuck. Because if these women were serious, you know what they would have done? They all would have fired their agents. And they would have went to the mailroom of one of these big agencies and found a woman that was busting her hump in there and said, if you want to talk to us, then you have to talk to her. And if they did that, then she would be big and they would be big and nobody would get fed to Harvey Weinstein. But did they do that? No. Was that their idea? No. Surprisingly, it was mine. What I think the feminist movement needs to be very successful is a male leader. I'll do it. I will. I will lead you women to the promised land. I will make sure you get equal pay for equal work. I will make sure that nobody harasses you or fucks with you on the job. I will protect all of your interests. And all that I ask for in return is that you suck my dick. And now we're right back to square one, aren't we? And now we get to the core of the crisis. What is a woman? What is that in this day and time? Is there even such thing as a woman or a man or anything? Seems to be a question nowadays. Now listen, women get mad at me. Gay people get mad at me. Lesbians get mad at me. But I'm gonna tell you right now, and this is true. These transgenders, these niggas want me dead. I've gone too far, I've said too much. And I gotta tell you, I'm very worried about it. I'm not even joking. Every time I come out on stage, I be scared. I be looking around the crowd, searching for knuckles and Adam's apples to see where the threats might be coming from. A nigga came up to me on the street the other day. He said, "Careful, Dave, they after you." I said, "What? One they or many theys?" Before I even say anything about that community, you must know, and I hope you all feel the same way, I am not indifferent to the suffering of someone else. There's laws, the mean laws in our country. North Carolina passed a law once that said a person in North Carolina must use the restroom that corresponds with the gender they were assigned on their birth certificate. No. No, that's not a good law. That's a mean law. No American should have to present a birth certificate to take a shit at Walmart in Greensboro, North Carolina, where the baby shot and killed a motherfucker. You have to ask yourself, if you're thinking about it, who are these laws designed to protect? Like, let's say they designed this law to protect me, my interests. Transphobic comedian Dave Chappelle. And let's say that I'm in Walmart doing a little shopping with my family. Now, I should tell you, if that ever happens in real life, you should know that my dreams didn't work out. But let's say something goes horribly wrong, and there I am in Walmart with the poor whites rummaging around for mediocre goods and services. And then I gotta go to the restroom. So I excuse myself from my family. I go to the men's room. Now I'm standing at the urinal taking a leak. And this is what this law is gonna do. And suddenly, a woman walks into the men's room. I'm gonna be like, that's strange. And then she stands shoulder to shoulder with me at the urinal. I'm gonna be like, ugh, bitch, what's going on with you? And then she hikes her skirt up and pulls a real live meaty dick out. And what do you think I'm gonna say? Thank God she's in here with me. At least now I know my family's safe. No, I'm not gonna feel that way at all. I'm gonna feel very uncomfortable. I would feel better if it was a man with a vagina who backed up to the urinal next to me. I wouldn't even think about that. I'd just be like, that's funny. This guy is peeing out of his butt for some reason. Oh my God, he must be a veteran. Thank you for your service.